Hi, I'm Karceno.
Oh, let's talk about it. Let's talk about it.
No one knows Karceno and none of these.
There's so much going on in the world, and I'm just giving my 2 cents on it. Go in and do a raid at someone's house, but you don't have an arrest warrant for them. All right. What about now? Okay. Looks like the sound is working now. Now you can hear. Oh, nice try, man. You see how they come with sabotage? What's wrong with these people? It's crazy. What other word would you have for it besides sabotage? Now, Ronda Rousey, who became Ronda Rousey once she got knocked out by Holly Holm. She came with every excuse in the book. She started talking about how she was dizzy. She couldn't, it was all about her concussions.
Early MMA career and the fact that you had what appeared to be a bit of a concussion-based brain injury of sorts, because in your book you talk about how you realized that in sparring, if someone hit you pretty hard in the head, you'd end up seeing stars.
Yeah, I mean, people didn't really know about CTE back when I was doing judo, and I would get concussions all the time and just be told that, hey, my head hurts, I have photo vision. I would say like stuff like that, and they'd be like, just stop being a pussy and like keep training. And so I would get, dozens of concussions and never be allowed to stop. And I would have to keep training through them. And the symptoms would persist for weeks, to the point that I was experiencing concussion symptoms more often than I wasn't for a 10-year judo career. I mean, that's the kind of thing that leads to CTE. All these football players that we're dealing with were having concussions repeatedly and not being allowed to rest. And so by the time I got into MMA, this is the kind of injury that accumulates over time. You don't, it doesn't go away. Every time you get a concussion, it's easier to get another one. And so by the time I got into MMA, it was really easy for me to get concussion symptoms. And I'd rested for a couple years, so at first it wasn't so bad, but it just got worse and worse and worse with time. Even if I'm winning a fight and, 14 seconds and the other person doesn't touch me, there's 50 rounds of sparring that went into that training camp. And you're wearing like a headgear and gloves, which are meant to protect you cosmetically, but these gloves are 14 ounces and you're wearing this headgear, so your brain is, suspended in fluid. The larger the thing is, like if it's 14 ounces, it's easier actually to give you a concussion when you're sparring. And it's the kind of thing that I just didn't want to say anything about. I didn't want to address it myself or any kind of weakness in myself. And I just kept telling myself that I just have to be perfect and not allow these people to touch me. I have to create this fighting style that's so efficient that I don't take any damage. And
oh my God. Have you ever seen a Karen? A successful Karen? This woman has come up with every excuse in the book. She has come up with every excuse in the book, saying she went into the fight with a concussion. She had a concussion in all of her training camps. And then all of a sudden, she winds up kicked in the head. And that was due to the fact that she was concussed. Ronda Rousey, after she was knocked out, she ducked and hid after she was doing all that. I'm the baddest in the world. Soon as she lost, she couldn't accept it. She cried like a baby. She went in the back room, hid her face. As soon as she got out of the car, all the cameras are there. She got a jacket over her head. She couldn't handle the loss. She couldn't handle losing. She couldn't handle coming back. She never rematched Holly Holm. She ran to Hollywood. Then she comes all the way back and said, I'm going to fight Amanda Nunes. They didn't even promote Amanda Nunes. They just promoted Ronda Rousey. I mean, unbelievable. Ego through the roof. So she's blaming everything on the concussions in this interview.
Couldn't. And so I think that's one of the things that really dug at me for so long, that so many people were like saying like, oh, Ronda's game plan was bad or whatever this, and like they didn't know that like I wasn't like present. I was like just trying to survive. I couldn't see how far away she was. It wasn't like that was my game plan or anything like that. I was like completely disabled. And when I tried to fight again, and I was like, okay, I'll give myself a break and I'll make sure the mouth guard's perfect. This time I'm not going to knock myself out right before the fight and all those things. And the same thing, I just got tapped and I was out. You know, even if I was out on my feet, I was out. So I just didn't have the hardware to continue fighting. And a lot of people would say like, oh, you're a fucking quitter, you're this or that. And it's really difficult because I'd never been more skilled as a fighter. I'd never been better in my life, but I just neurologically wasn't capable of continuing to fight at that level. And I
neurologically wasn't able to keep fighting at that level. No, you got beat because they fed you fighters that you were bigger than and you were stronger and you could manhandle those fighters. Once you start fighting fighters who were your size, who were skilled, you tried to strike with a striker and got struck. That's why you got embarrassed by Holly Holm. You kept thinking, oh, I couldn't gauge her distance. No, she was a professional boxer. She was a champion boxer. Holly Holm won championships. She won it in kickboxing, she won it in boxing, and she won it in MMA. But she boxed you. Now, I know for a fact what happened to you. I made the video. Before you got beat, you were already beat by Holly. You got beat by Holly Lawson, who you sparred with to get prepared for the fight with Holly Holm. I know Holly Lawson. Holly Lawson and I talked after she sparred you and said, oh my God, if Ronda Rousey, gets in the ring with Holly Holm, she better hope she can grab her, because I hit her with everything. He's like, literally everything. And whoever's teaching her to box, they're doing it wrong. She's like, she comes in the ring, she does this, and I'm like, what the hell are you doing? She didn't slip one punch. Even when I showed her it's coming, I was able to hit her. And if I could hit her, what do you think Holly Holm's going to do? And she told me this herself before the fight. And I made the video saying, Ronda, you already got beat by Holly. And everybody thought I was talking about Holly Holm. She got beat by Holly Lawson. And it only got worse. This was training to fight Holly Holm. She decided to box a friend of mine, Holly Lawson, who now trains and get actresses ready for movie roles in Hollywood. Rosemouth Pike used her for Gone Girl and a couple of other films. Now, Ronda Rousey had a choice. And It's not about what she looks like. It's not about that. But when everything was rolling, she was the apple of everybody's eye. So after coming out and blaming everybody, I was wondering, what the hell is she doing it for? Oh, she got a book. So now she's trying to sell this book, right? She was beating everybody in 60 seconds, and she was a superstar, and now she has suicidal thoughts. If you got suicidal thoughts, why would you make a book such as this that's going to have everybody coming at your head? That would increase threats and what have you. It's not this interviewer's fault. He doesn't know anything about him, like WWE, MMA, nothing.
And you're all contractors at the WWE as well, so you're not employees. You have to pay for your own healthcare and all these kinds of things, from what I read in your book.
Yep.
Which is pretty crazy. I mean, that would never be allowed in where I'm from, in the UK. It's sort of Vince McMahon's kingdom.
Yeah. Well, I mean, supposedly he's out now because they, caught him paying company funds so he can shit on some girl's head in the office and, do a threesome with her, Johnny Laurinaitis. But his cronies are still there. And so when that stuff started coming out and Vince was gone before, he was still basically just calling it in and running the company. And, but yeah, like Bruce Pritchard, who's there now, who's still like the head of creative or whatever title they gave him, is basically just taking orders from Vince and still running the company through him. And so when Vince was resigned formally because of all these like sexual allegations and stuff that were coming out, he was still running the company informally, and I think he still is to this day.
You don't have a whole lot of nice things to say about these people.
I mean, depends on who. The girls in the locker room, I absolutely love them.
The people at the top running.
Yeah, I mean, Steph and Triple H, I think they're honestly doing their best, but I mean, I think that Vince McMahon just created a fundamentally sick environment, and I think if Ari is going to be able, if Ari Emanuel, who bought it out from WME, is going to be able to actually make this multi-billion-dollar dysfunctional organization into one that functions, he's got to clean out all of Vince's cronies. He's got to completely clean house and remove Vince's influence completely. But no one's asking me. But that's just what I experienced when Vince was gone. He was still running the show through people that he'd hired in the past. Bruce Pritchard being number one of them.
Bruce Pritchard's still there, I believe.
Yeah, John Laurinaitis took he was cut loose because he got named specifically in the scandal. But yeah, Bruce Pritchard is literally, I never heard him say a single one of his own opinions. He'd only say that Vince says this, Vince says that, Vince says this, Vince says this, Vince. And so he's literally just like, I called him Vince's avatar. That's basically what he is.
You returned to the UFC after you left in 2019. You were there from 2017 to 2019. And in 2017 is when you got married with Travis. I couldn't figure out.
Now, Travis was like her bodyguard. And that was the person who came and saved her life. He couldn't fight worth a damn no more. But I guess they both suffered from concussions. But it's amazing to me. She threw Vince under the bus. As if Vince asked her to get down. This is the same person now who didn't say nothing about Dana White. Who's a knockoff version of Vince McMahon. This man who just smacked down and beat up his wife in 1080p for the world to see, go on UFC and lie. On TMZ and lie and says, nothing like this ever happened in our household. I'm so embarrassed. It's all my fault. I take all full blame. He's not suspended. He's not reprimanded. And it was business as usual. He went out and bragged. What do you think my punishment should be, huh? If I'm gone, that hurts the fighters. What the hell they need you to do? What do they need you to do? You're not training a fighter. The fighters don't need Dana White. The sport does not need you. You can go on vacation for 3 years. Nobody would know where the hell you were and wouldn't care. Now, Ronda. Now, allegedly, when you came here into the sport, you were sleeping with Dana White. Allegedly, you were getting down with the boss of your company. So how in the world, if you're not going to talk about, you're going to talk about Vince McMahon and what allegedly went down that you did not see, you going to tell me you didn't know about Dana White? And you were allegedly sleeping with him. So what does that make you? Why would the other girls respect you when you coming through the door sleeping with the guy that owns the company? Of course he's going to pave the way for you. And your ex-boyfriend brought that up too, as him and Dana White had problems. Now, why would him and Dana White have problems? That don't make any sense. Well, it makes a lot of sense when you're nailing the competition. When you taking Ronda Rousey to Pound Town, and you're saying all the situations go from worse to worser. Think about it. You got Dana White at the helm. Well, you know, the reigning, defending. This guy, and I know you've heard the rumors. All the ring girls sleeping with him. And your own ex-boyfriend, who was your boyfriend at the time, was wondering why he was getting so much resistance from Dana White, another former MMA fighter. I hope you address this in your book. I hope you address this in the book. Because you can't sit there and talk about Vince McMahon when your own UFC boss, Dana White, has been in scandal after scandal. Oh, yeah. Everybody know what was going on, man. It is a known fact. Her own boyfriend, Brendan Schaub, your own MMA boyfriend, had to tell you Something's wrong here. He kept asking you about it. Did you sleep with Dana? Because no man acts like this with this degree of jealousy. And he always says, Dana, me and you, we Eskimo brothers. An Eskimo brother is what you would call somebody who slept with the same woman as you. The Eskimos would say we're brothers because we both slept with the same woman. So they're Eskimo brothers. So if Brendan Schaub, your ex-boyfriend, says this happened and called Dana White his Eskimo brother, he knows. And why are you afraid to address that fact but go right after Vince McMahon? You are going after the whole staff because you're mad about the WWE. You're mad. The whole time, it was going down, Dana White was jealous of y'all relationship. It was on some Days of Our Lives type shit. Look, he was jealous of Brendan Schaub. And he was in a position like, Dana, you can't do anything to me now. I'm in the podcast game now. You can't touch me. Dana White's pissed still to this day that he called him. UFC boss Dana White and ex-fighter Brendan Schaub, bitter Eskimo brothers feud. Let's check that out. Let's see what Maximum had to say. Schwab, who hasn't fought in the UFC in 3.5 years, but the former heavyweight could still make headlines in the press. You see that? Still make headlines in the press. Suave makes his living with his mouth as a stand-up comic, podcast host. He's on Joe Rogan a lot. And then there was one with his 10-5 MMA career, really spoke about transitioning to this. And when he spoke to Dana White, he says Dana White is an effing tool. He said, what the F does this idiot know about the sport or the business? For you to be listening to one word from this moron is a waste of your time. That is what Dana White got so mad at Brendan Schaub. He was so pissed. He says, this guy was 6-5 in the UFC. The only thing he could teach you is how to get knocked out. Tune idiots like this out. So Schwab came back to Dana White and said, Dana, whoa, look like you got a break from folding Ronda Rousey's laundry to jump on Instagram. He said, bravo, sir. He's right. What do I know? Listen to a bald fat guy who's never been in a fight in his life. Do that. But Dana White continued to get on Instagram and talk back to Brendan Schaub. So about some, he's successful As soon as Joe Rogan stops carrying him, he will disappear. So he comes back. He said, Dana, I tried to be cool. And once he did that, boom, Brendan Schaub, the boyfriend, the ex-boyfriend of Dana White, not Dana White, Ronda Rousey, said these words here. However, if it wasn't for the Furtadas loaning your ass millions of dollars to invest into an idea that wasn't yours from the start, you wouldn't be shit. How's it feel to know once the real businessmen and brains left, the UFC has been a shell of itself with you at the front for? You tried it all. CM Punk experiment, bringing Brock to come back and praying at night for a Conor McGregor text. Tough job to make it without Lorenzo holding your hand, making sure you don't mess it all up. Can't feel good. Oh, yeah, it's getting good now. It's getting down and dirty. You'll be a cardio kickboxing coach in Boston in your late 40s, hoping to grab a ticket to my stand-up front row if Lorenzo Furtada didn't save your ass. Also, this is no way Eskimo brothers should talk to one another. Last warning. Last warning. Telling you to shut your mouth, Dana White. Last warning. And he told him, this is your last warning, Dana White. Last warning. And you know what Dana White did? He shut the F up. So, your Eskimo brother got you to shut your mouth. Everybody knew. Brendan Schaub just outed Dana White as his Eskimo brother. Gotta be Ronda Rousey. It's gotta be Ronda. Who else? And he kept his mouth shut. He said, shut up. You don't want to go there. So my thing is, when you've been sleeping around and rolling around in the sheets with the owner of UFC, the president of the company, how are you going to talk about Vince McMahon? And your boyfriend at the time, who's going back and forth with the president of the company, who's trying to put him in bad fights, who's trying to screw up his career because he's jealous of you two being together. He's mad that you like Brendan Schaub. Y'all about the same age. And he's this old big doughboy fat guy who Brendan Schaub would kick ass in a second. But how many scandals has this man been in at UFC? And I hope you mention it in your book. I hope you have the courage to mention this in your book. Yeah, things are heating up around the world. Now, there have been rumored violent episodes of Dana White harming women, sleeping with women, putting up houses just so he can go and sleep with these women in these houses. All of these things he knows about. All the girls who were the ring card girls, he knows about them. How doesn't Ronda Rousey? You heard Vince was such a bad man that you could throw him under the bus. And I'm not trying to defend Vince McMahon. Vince McMahon is a deplorable human being when it comes to women. We've been knowing that for 30 years. But what did I tell you? Whenever one of the white guys go down, here come about 3 other brothers to go rolling with him. They find some black guys to go get. Vince McMahon go down, oh, we got to go grab Diddy. Somebody black got to go down too. Somebody black did this too. Harvey goes down. Harvey, go grab Bill Cosby. Like that was 700 years ago. I don't care. Throw him in jail. They will find a black guy who did the same thing somewhere and try to lock him up. Now, Ronda Rousey pulls this entire move and made all of this excuses for what's going on over there. And said social media keep pressuring her. And the pressures of social media. You're a goddamn adult. You're not a 5-year-old.
I feel like that was one thing that I needed to do, was to like not constantly need that outside validation and stuff like that, especially from internet and social media and stuff. And I was kind of like spiraling in a way, and kind of like giving that way too much stock in my like emotional, state and stuff like that. And then pro wrestling, you're literally in front of a crowd that is like the embodiment of a comment section in front of yourself. That's also why I really enjoyed being a heel, which I, wish they would have let me be a heel more often, because that's why I feel like I was happiest when I wasn't trying to placate to the crowd, purposely try to, piss them off and get a rise out of them, and not trying to constantly, pander.
I was surprised to hear about the WWE that they kind of rewrite the script last minute, and that it's not. I don't even think of such a big business. You imagine they've got script writers and the scripts are written.
You would
years
think
ago.
it wouldn't be an absolute clusterfuck shit show, and you would be wrong.
Wow.
Yeah. It was, and it's so needlessly dangerous. Like no one can. Like a lot of times people can't rehearse, things are changed last minute. A lot of times you see them outside, they're performing, they've only talked about it, they're doing it for the first time. So a lot of these injuries happen because people just weren't able to rehearse, and the company doesn't give a shit because we're all expendable to them.
Did you feel expendable to the UFC, to the WWE?
Yes. Yeah. I think we all did. And they made sure to make us feel that way.
Why were they?
So now the company made them feel expendable. Now she's one of the expendables. She's expendable. Everybody's expendable. She assumed is that I'm going to go to WWE and get money because I can't beat Amanda Nunes. I can't beat Holly Holm. I don't know who I can beat anymore. And her mental thing is she's so fragile now. She doesn't want to get in a real fight no more. So she goes to WWE because Vince said, hey, I'll pay you a whole bunch of money. So you went there for the money. You never loved the sport. You thought you could go there. They were going to make you like a celebrity person and you already high step in the process, you're going to come in as a wrestler now and not as a celebrity guest. You're going to wrestle and it's going to be easy. They're going to take care of you. Everybody's going to pander to you. No, you're a wrestler now. You're in the suck. You're sleeping in the trailers, on the bus, as if going to town. You're fighting in Rockford. You're not used to that. You're doing road shows. It's like, whoa, what's going on here? Why am I at this house event? This is the game. This is what's happening. You're going to get your practice here on this road. Raw is moving here. You're going to be here. You're going to be on the road every damn week. You're a wrestler now. Then you go cry to Vince them on how you can't wrestle every week. You need a break. And they cater to whatever Ronda Rousey wanted. Then you want to blame Stephanie McMahon. She slapped me so hard I got a concussion. Everybody knew Amanda Nunes was going to crush her. She was supposed to fight Amanda Nunes first before Holly Holm. And then they said, well, if she fights Amanda Nunes, she's going to get destroyed. And even Joe Rogan knew better because that's the only thing he really knows about is MMA. And he kind of knew, like, that's kind of dangerous fight for Ronda. This Amanda Nunes is for real. And we both were like, yeah, that's pretty much the truth. Oh, nothing's wrong with Rockford. It's just that Rockford is very small. That's a small market. When they leave Chicago, when they leave Rosemont, they pack it up and go to Rockford and do the Rockford show. They don't do Raw from Rockford. Rockford is the house show. Now, when you start looking at the deeper, darker meaning of things, right? You said, what's the deeper, darker meaning? What's up? Outlaw, we did a whole New York Knicks podcast thing, and you were nowhere to be found. You and LB were gone. No, what Ronda Rousey was able to do was to basically victim blame. She wanted to victim blame. She wanted to pass the buck to somebody else. And why would she pass it to somebody else, you say? Because Ronda Rousey is an excuse maker. She's been a person that made excuses her entire career. She has made excuses her entire career. She first said she was too distracted with acting. Oh, I'm just I'm all over here. I'm doing this and that. And I really didn't train. After months of didn't want to talk about it. Then she finally talked about it and she blamed the fact she had movies to do. And the fact that, I had to go do a bit part in a movie. that meant nothing. Well, she's an excuse maker. Yeah, she's always been like that. Big, bad, and bold. She could beat Floyd Mayweather. No one could beat her. She's the most devastating athlete in the world until she lost. Then it all came crashing down. And you had all these magazine articles filling her head up and making her believe she was the best thing on the planet. She gets in there and blasts WWE for the fact that her career sucked because she wasn't good. They do with Ronda Rousey. They tried to make her a good guy, attaching her to Rowdy Piper. Rowdy Ronda Rousey. They tried to make her a baby face, and that was the wrong take because no one liked Ronda Rousey. I mean, you got to understand, she wasn't a likable person. She's just not. And that's why she said, oh, I love being a heel more. They didn't know what to do with this woman. That they monikered her to be like Piper. Everything was out the Rowdy Piper. They gave her the leather jacket that Piper wore outside. She had on Piper's leather jacket. You remember that? She had on the Piper jacket. A lot of fans didn't like it. Piper is one of the great monologue deliverers in wrestling history. In wrestling history, Ric Flair, Roddy Piper are two of the best at giving monologues. You're not going to get any better than those two. Now, when you start looking at the whole gate of it, like you might say to yourself, well, Ceno, you got to look at the bigger picture. What were they supposed to do? She has no real fame. She's coming off 2 losses. She's Ronda Rousey, the baddest MMA UFC fighter for women's period. That's not enough to sell it. Why did you have to use the Rowdy Piper gimmick? It wasn't needed. Now her whole thing is, oh, I love my co-workers, my employees. Oh, I love them. Ronda Rousey's whole career was her getting piped down. Before she even made it, everybody was piping her down. Even in the UFC, the Diaz brothers, we can go there. She was a pothead getting piped down. They suspended Nick Diaz. She went off on the UFC. So what? What's wrong with getting high? No, she hung out with Nick Diaz all the time. But Ronda Rousey used to get piped down all the time because she was used to work at a bar. And she used to go after the bar, go there, get drunk, and go sleep with guys. Like, she lived like a hobo. There were beer cups, shot glasses turned over everywhere. She's getting piped down. She lived in a shack. A shack. So she was used to getting ran through, sleeping with random guys, waking up in her car. This was her life. I hope she put all this in the book while she's trashing everybody else. And your husband over there, like he's marrying a dime. You're marrying somebody who's more crudded up than the Outbreak Monkey. You know, Big Travis, every time he got in the ring, he get touched on the chin, he just fall asleep. We're like, why are you going so hard at Ronda? Ronda make it hard for you to root for her. She does. Oh, she didn't care if you was black or white. Ronda was letting you pipe her down if you got her some drinks. Oh, she didn't care. She was in the mood and she had some drinks. It was on. You can get you some Rousey if you wanted it back then. And she was in her bar mode. This is somebody that won a medal in the Olympics, came home broke, had no career for wrestling, no judo wrestling. It's finna pay the bills. He said John Jones piped Ronda Rousey down. I believe him. I would believe it. Yeah, you didn't need to go that route. So for her to go up there to cry on this man's show and talk about how she felt exploited by WWE, to me, was just ridiculous. And the fact that she could be such a hypocrite. Right. You could be such a hypocrite and talk about Vince and skip over Dana White is amazing. That just shows you the level of where she was at mentally.
On the 14th of November 2015, you had UFC 193, where you were lined up to fight Holly Holmes in Melbourne, Australia. I remember where I was when that fight happened. I didn't miss many UFC fights, and I still don't miss many, but it was a really sort of a huge turning point for a number of reasons. You were indestructible. Basically, that's how the whole UFC community and I think the fan base saw you. But in that moment, as you said earlier on, there was an initial contact, and I watched the clip again earlier on. There's an initial contact. I think it was with Holly Holm's elbow, if I remember correctly. And then you talked about having this sort of issue with depth perception because of that initial contact. And that's actually what I see in that clip. I see from that first sort of strike that there is an issue with kind of understanding where Holly is, and that fight ends in a head kick. From that moment when you leave the octagon, how does your life and perception of everything change? Because it's interesting the way that you were built up to that. I was going to say the top of the mountain. You're up in the clouds at that point. Like it was framed to everyone that you were fundamentally indestructible. You know, and that's kind of what the marketing machine does. It does to everyone. They're fundamentally indestructible, but to everyone, from Muhammad Ali to my friend Israel in the UFC, everyone has their day where we find out that everyone is a human being to some degree. From the moment you leave the UFC, what is life like from that point onwards when you get back into the medical room?
Extremely depressing. You know, that was my whole identity. It was being champion and undefeated, and it's just like soul crushing. It really was. I was just kind of like forced to face music before I was ready to, and I knew that it was going to catch up to me at some point. But I was more, I think, upset that there were so many people out there that were like reveling in it. And I don't know, it just felt so like unjust in a way, because I just felt like it was just, there's so much of it just wasn't my fault, you know? I just couldn't, like, my brain just couldn't take what I asked of it anymore. And my body took as much as it could until it literally broke. And I gave everybody everything that I had. And that wasn't enough for them. They hated me for not having more. So, I mean, it was tough. It was, I saw a whole bunch of people that I thought were friends just, you know, turn on me. And it was really eye-opening in a way, though, you know, who true friends are and what true happiness is, and that outward validation wasn't it. And so I think maybe it might have saved me in a way from going down the path of trying to like chase that high of everybody's, you know, approval forever. But so I guess it was liberating in a way in the long run.
If I was a fly on the wall that night when you left that.
So it was liberating that she lost. Ronda Ramon James. She sounds like she needs to go back to a psychologist. She does. And the thing is that she's butthurt, and it's all her fault. It is her fault. She wanted it, but she don't want everything that comes along with it. She wants the fans and the cheers and all the lights and all this, but she want to be able to X out what she can take with it and what she can. You don't have that luxury, princess. You just don't. Everybody else got to live by those rules. You think any other actor wish they could have people not hate them? You got to take the what they say, the bitter with the sweet. It comes with the territory. Look at Floyd Mayweather, all the success he got, all the money and people hating on him. Yeah, Floyd, hate you. I hate you. He got to take all of that with a grain of salt and take the bitter with the sweet. So she got what she deserved. 100%. So on that note, we're going to shut it down. Shouts out to Kwame Brown Bus Life, Ticket TV, Jag Sports with Jose Rodriguez. Welcome to HDIITV. And we up out of here. Sorry about what happened in the beginning with the audio. I didn't know what happened with that.